I wanted to do a follow up to my interview with Dr. Martin Moreed because I think circadian rhythms are so important to your health. I want to just highlight some things that were in that interview and maybe elaborate just a little bit and let you know about my next class is actually going to be all about circadian rhythms. But then I want to go into an update of what I believe was so protective and so helpful for me in terms of stress management and anxiety in the last year. Because I have alluded to the fact at how stressful last year was the most stressful year of my life. Really, it was longer than a year. But what was so impressive to me is how I still was able to have grounded, clear energy to meet each day. And so I want to go a little bit deeper into that and just it might be reiterating, but I think it's really important because a lot of you could benefit could benefit from that. I don't know a better way of saying that, that might be really helpful for some people who are listening. So I wanna be really clear about what I believe was the most helpful part of that whole time keeping me not only upright, but actually ready to take on each day, not knowing exactly what that day was going to bring in terms of stress. So let's circle back to Dr. Moreed's interview. And well, first of all, if you didn't hear it, go back and listen. It's really great. What I think is most important about what he's saying is to really understand that we do have this master clock in our brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. He was in charge of the lab that actually found that suprachiasmatic nucleus, that master clock in the brain. Because before that, we were doing a lot of guessing. I guess people were guessing about circadian rhythms. And what that told us is that there is this master clock that is actually orchestrating based mostly on light and dark cycles of the day. So that light influence in the dark of the day is what's really primarily giving the information to that suprachiasmatic nucleus, that master clock that's then orchestrating all the clocks in almost every cell in the body. So it's this beautiful orchestra, it's this beautiful harmony, or it's not. And so I just want to point out also, it is, I think, really important that it was missed for so long because people were looking at too big a chunks of the brain. So they were looking at these slices of the brain. And what can happen in life, as well as in science, is that something that's really small can be overlooked because people first of all don't know where they're looking for it, but they're looking in too big at chunks, and that can happen in our lives too, is that we are looking so much at big picture in big chunks that we're neglecting some of the smaller pieces that are actually driving these bigger pieces. Really, that's what quantum biology is, by the way, quantum being the smallest of things. And so we're looking at these subatomic particles, the nanoparticles, right? But these smaller things, these smaller particles or waves that are driving some of the bigger picture, the bigger things that are going on and in biology in the body. But really, that could be happening. You can look at that on every level. So if you look at your life and you're like, okay, where I'm making these small changes, even though you might be overlooking some of the small changes, I would invite you to be really conscious, bring that to awareness of these small changes that are driving some of the bigger picture, and actually maybe even spend a little time in gratitude or appreciation, or at least awareness of these smaller things, and really congratulate yourself. Because if you found yourself here on the Nourish Soul podcast listening, you are really hearing cutting edge new science, and quantum biology is this new frontier. I am bringing on people that are talking about things that are different probably than what you've heard, but also you're here working, I'm guessing, on your own healing, on your open-minded. Maybe you're trying to help somebody else, a loved one, but you're here. So, congratulate yourself because that means that you're looking for a fresh perspective on health and healing. And hopefully you're finding that. And I want to point out that this gratitude. Now, I realize that gratitude sometimes is like, oh, that's so cheesy. Like, what am I supposed to do? Spend some time in gratitude every day, writing a gratitude journal. Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. Because everything is energy, everything has a frequency. And what's interesting about gratitude in particular as a frequency, it's an emotion. It could be gratitude thoughts. Thoughts have frequency, and our emotions have frequencies. But gratitude as a frequency that is felt, like in the actual feeling realm, is very powerful and is one of the fastest ways that we have to turn people's perspectives around. So to help mood, essentially, it actually changes physiology and rather quickly. So whatever you're doing in your health journey, in your healing, to pay attention to those small little changes that you're making, to congratulate yourself for that, and also spending some time in gratitude. Now, I'm going to go ahead and suggest that while you're outside and maybe you're earthing or grounding, so you've got bare skin touching Earth's surface, even if it's just a finger touching a tree or a leaf that's planted in the ground to a bush or whatever that is, or if that's barefoot, whatever that is. Maybe you're just out there because it's cold. And so you're not barefoot and you're not putting bare skin on the Earth's surface, but you're at least out there getting the frequencies of light that are so important. So, I talk about building your solar callus, getting out an early morning light and an evening at sunset. So, sunrise and sunset, and how important that is. And then working your way to more and more light throughout the day, in the middle of the day. Right. So while you're out there doing those things, perhaps you also add a gratitude practice just to take your quantum health to the next level so that you're really working on these frequencies. You're getting the frequencies of light, you're absorbing the free electrons from the Earth's surface, which is really helping your electric body. It's basically recharging your electric body. And then you're also adding these frequencies that through your thoughts and your feelings, you could do other than gratitude, some other kinds of thoughts or feelings. It's not just about positive vibes, by the way. It is vibration, it is frequency, but this is a powerful way to really shift your whole life. And so I want to just say that these are little things that you can do that can improve your health, and there might be other things too that are being overlooked, because as we're really focused on the big picture and our big goals, we maybe are missing some of the smaller pieces. So that's a point that I wanted to make. What I loved about Dr. Moore Ead's conversation is how pointed he is about the wrong light at certain times of the day are increasing not only inflammation, but are leading to cancer and obesity and diabetes and all of these diseases. Very pointedly, no question about it, that we have enough research now to show that that is a problem for people when you're getting the wrong light at certain times of the day. So that brings me to talk about my process. So, and you know how grateful I am to have landed in studying applied quantum biology, because it couldn't have come at a better time. It's interesting how the universe works like that and we get what we need. Even though it was really the hardest time of my life, I was able every single day. I couldn't believe it. I would wake up feeling grounded and clear and energized and ready to go. Now, when I tell you, I've been on my knees praying before, right? There were times in my life when my dad was dying, other times in my life where I have been literally on my knees praying. But multiple times last year, I was on my knees at night, praying sometimes during the day. But I'm just thinking, like, I would go to bed at night sometimes in such a state of concern. And there were times that I would be on my knees praying because the thought that I kept having is this is not sustainable. This amount of worry and anxiety and stress is not sustainable. And then amazingly, I would get restful sleep, restorative sleep, and I would wake up the next morning ready to go. And this is crazy. I'm energized. I feel good. More and more days, I would feel energized and ready no matter what was happening. I felt better and better and better. And I was like, this is crazy because I already felt like I was doing all the things to feel good. My diet was amazing. I was non-drinker, non-smoker. Those are two things, I guess. Non-drinker, non-smoker, somebody who exercises all the time, was utilizing meditation. You name it, I have studied it, practiced it, or maybe still do practice it. Everything from mindfulness and meditation and prayer to dry brushing and targeted supplementation and all of the kind of what else? What else would I say? Castor oil packs. I mean, you name it, I have tried all of the things, but I have a background in clinical mental health counseling, right? And trauma counseling, EMDR, EFT. What else have I done? Brain based hypnotherapy, like all kinds of tools. And now havening. I also have added havening to my repertoire. All of these techniques, I had already done all of those things. I was already utilizing all those things. The things that I did that were different were applied quantum biology strategies. So these quantum health strategies, I was already getting up for sunrise religiously. I had been doing that for a long time. I was already working on my vitamin D naturally because the supplements were making me feel really bad anyway. So I just quit taking those and I just did it naturally. I would get out for sun sessions using my D-Minder app, which is a free app that would help me figure out when I should be outside, which is funny that I needed an app originally to do that, but it's fine. Whatever you need, whatever tools you need. I was out there. So I was religious about all of those things. And I was feeling really pretty good. I mean, I thought I was feeling great all the time. The things that I added, what was different about what I was doing? I got much more protective about my indoor lighting, particularly after sunset. So I started wearing my blue blockers. I mean, even when I go to parties or whatever, I've got my orange blue blockers on after sunset because I'm really protective of my lighting because the wrong lighting at certain times of the day, meaning when there is no light outside, so early in the morning or after so before sunrise or after sunset, really important to understand that your indoor lighting is affecting your health. So I got really protective of that. I had my red light bulbs. So I have my red light bulb, right? I have my blue blockers. I got much more protective about getting off of my electronics. Was not great about that. I think I've been really honest that that was the hardest part for me. I was like, I've got blue blockers on, so it's fine, right? And I like to work at night. Some of you think you're night owls and you need to be up at night or you've got work to do, all those things. So you do what you can do to mitigate because we are diurnal beings. So it's really important for us to get that. Our circadian rhythms need to be supported. And the biggest, what do I want to say? The biggest input, the strongest input for our circadian rhythms is light, but also dark, right? That's darkness is what tells the body that it is time to release the melatonin. So while you're making melatonin earlier in the day, so all of the light is important, but the dark is also important for the releasing of the melatonin. So that's the first thing. I got really protective. I got of my indoor light, especially after sunset, and more curious about how to protect my lighting situation if I had to be up before sunrise, but mostly after sunset, right? Those are the things that that's what I was doing. So that's first of all. The second thing that I did was I added red light therapy with a red light panel. I had bought the thing for my kid I've mentioned this before, but I nobody was using it. He wasn't using it. So I decided I'm going to use it. They're not cheap. I wanted somebody to use it. So I was just using it on my face area here. So if you're listening and not watching this on YouTube, I'm just pointing to my face. So I just had it on my face because in my research on red light therapy, I had come across some research that showed that it was helpful for eyesight and for correcting problems with eyes. And so I just thought my eyes are in their 50s and I wanted to see if that would work. So I was just doing it on my face and for a few minutes a day, maybe 10 minutes max for a while. And what was super shocking is how much that improved my energy. Like that was the most marketed improvement. And so I was super surprised about that. So that's the second thing that I added. The third thing that I did, and this is the final thing, is I really upped my earthing. So it's sometimes called grounding, but grounding in counseling, so especially in trauma counseling, we call grounding something. We mean something else by that. We're talking about getting really present in this particular moment, getting back into your body, into this moment. And so we teach as part of kind of resourcing for the nervous system is before we start doing all this work on our nervous system, it's helpful to have some resourcing, some things that you do that you put in place that help really bring you back to the present moment, that put you in a state of parasympathetic state, a state of rest and digest. So we have the stress response and the relaxation response. We have ways to elicit the relaxation response, especially if we're kind of stuck in that stress response. So we have all these things that we do in counseling to help with resourcing, and grounding is one of them. But what I mean in the quantum biology perspective of this is actually grounding the body. We are electrical beings first. So, yes, we have chemical reactions going on. Yes, of course, you can look at the body as mechanical. However, we are electrical beings first, and it helps to think about the body as this battery, right? And so, I don't think it's a mistake, right, that our entire body is conductive. So, our skin on the Earth's surface allows us to literally ground into the earth and to absorb those free electrons. So it's literally grounding, is what I'm talking about. Earthing, being bare skin on Earth's surface. You can touch a tree. Your feet can be bare feet on grass, rocks, dirt, sand, concrete if it's not painted or sealed is also fine. But you could also be touching a tree or touching a bush that is planted, right? All of those things are what I would call earthing, and that is grounding us. Those are the three things that I started doing more consciously, more intentionally. And that is what seemed to move the needle more than anything else that I've ever done. Now, you might be thinking, well, should I just start with those things? Yeah, you could. I think that the nutrition and all of my lifestyle was healthy and that was foundational. So, yeah, it's possible that those things were making a really big difference in moving the needle for me because I already ate really well, exercised every day, was a non-drinker, really good about my own figuring out my own hydration needs. And I'm not talking about cellular hydration, even though we could talk about cellular hydration, but I was moving my body, eating well, all of those things, I use all the tools that I've ever learned: meditation, mindfulness, emotional freedom technique, which is tapping, all of the things. Already had all of those in place. So it's possible that when I added the quantum health strategies, like utilizing the sun as part of my healing, so sunrise, sunset, being out in the middle of the day for sun sessions, but also making sure that I get out, pop outside for a few minutes at least during UVA light, which is about an hour after sunrise and about an hour before sunset, UVA light is available. And UVA light, those frequencies of light that are available at that time outside, those frequencies are most associated with mood and focus. So, yeah, I was doing all of that. You could start with any of those things. Wherever you are in your journey, you might resonate with, I really need to work on my nutrition. I know I do. I know my gut health is an issue. I'm going to argue that sunlight and circadian rhythms are your best way of helping your gut health. That is not what I was saying when I started teaching gut health in 2016. For years, I was mostly focused on the food and targeted supplementation and even some meditation and things like that because of the vagus nerve and vagal tone, which the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. It's also called the wandering nerve because it wanders through all the major organs, but it connects the brain and the gut. And so its communication is going up and down. And what's interesting about the research is showing that it's mostly going up. That information is going up from our gut to our brain, which is, I think most of us thought it was going to be the opposite, right? But it's a two-way communication. So I was really interested in that from food and a few practices. Did not realize how important sunlight is. And it doesn't have to be a sunny day, by the way, a bright, sunny, beautiful day in the summer. We're talking about light frequencies. So if the sun rises where you are and the sun sets where you are, if the sun rises, those frequencies of light are available. There are people that live in certain parts of the world that they have to kind of create their own rhythm, their own boundaries, because it's either really, really light for a long time, for periods that are really long, or really dark for these long periods. And so that's a different situation than most people. But the idea is that you get in harmony with your natural environment, and that is very helpful for your body and your cells, orienting your cells. Plus, being in nature is a safety signal to our cells. And so, in order to, reduce inflammation and calm down these danger cell responses to elicit the response of safety response in a cell, being in nature is a really big component of that. It's one way that we have that's easy. It's a small thing that we can do to make the big picture, right? To drives the bigger picture of our health. So these small things, these small little changes that you could make that would improve your health, but then also really being aware of them. Because awareness is half the game, more than half the game, I would say, is being aware of what's going on. The other just little tidbit is to just start to own your own stuff. The psychosocial, emotional, and spiritual part of our healing is as important as the physical part. So it's a whole picture, right? So I talk about psycho-emotional, or I like psychosocial, emotional, and spiritual, because that kind of encompasses all of it. When you think about mental health, there's really not anything that mental health wouldn't include because it's really our social, emotional, spiritual, anything that has to do with our well-being. So, and there's no way to separate mental health and physical health anyway. So we want to pay attention to all of the pieces and then really honing in on the opportunities that you have to do small little things, to notice them, and then to practice. Everything is really about practice. So I think you have to start with awareness and then get real, clear about owning your own stuff, your own, where you have, maybe you're a negative thinker. Let's just take that. So you recognize, like, okay, I think I've kind of got all this negative stinking thinking going on. And you want to shift that because you think if there's some small changes I could make there, that could really shift, that could make a big difference in my life, right? you're right. I think you're right about that. But really honing in on just your negative thoughts is not actually that helpful. So awareness is great. And then getting clear about what it is you want, the intention to be a happier, healthier, more vibrant human being, whatever that is for you, right? Rather than just, I want to have less negative thoughts. Like, what is it that you actually want? And then you get really investigative. You start looking for opportunities of in your own life of where you could practice. So you might start catching yourself with some negative thinking. And rather than beating up on yourself, because I have never seen that to be actually helpful, is to be gentle and kind with yourself works a lot better. And to just say, oh, this is an opportunity where I could, what else could I say to myself if it's about the negative thinking? What else could I do, think, feel that would be supportive of a happier, more positive, vibrant person that I want to be, of a more vibrant me. And then you just start practicing. You look for the opportunity to practice that. And then there's the piece of really holding yourself accountable is sometimes difficult. I think the practice part can get hard, maybe is maybe not the best word, challenging, or you just kind of feel like you're stuck in this old rut. So you might need someone or something to help with the accountability piece. You might have a therapist or a coach or a good friend or coworker or somebody that is willing to help you with that accountability piece where but you have to start with some kind of awareness to be able to do the whole process. And then the small changes. So each time you shift your thinking just a little bit, or you try just changing by going outside, or something, some little change that you do, that over time you start to see that it's building, well, it's also building new neural pathways, right? These are new. This is neuroplasticity 101 too, but this is building new neural pathways for you, and you're creating a whole new life by these little changes, but actually being aware and looking for the opportunities to do that and holding yourself accountable, or having someone else help you with the accountability piece of that. I do want to point out that I do not believe that you have to have awareness and insight in order to have healing. I've seen it over and over again. Yeah, awareness really helpful in most cases. Certainly intention is powerful. So having awareness, having intention of what it is you want, and then actively looking for opportunities in your life to practice new ways of doing things in small ways, big ways, whatever that looks like, and then also circling back with the accountability part of that, where you're just reflective, but in a really compassionate, kind way to yourself. Very powerful. And I have seen people heal in an instant without really a ton of insight about what was wrong, or what they needed to do differently, or was this something that happened in the past, or it doesn't seem to matter. They can have this healing, this just instant healing, which I'm all about that too. I think all of that, all healing is good healing. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I don't mean that you always have to have awareness and insight. And while we're talking about awareness and insight, I think many people look at therapy and psychotherapy as digging into your past, and that coaching is more about the future and a future forward looking. I disagree. That, I mean, yes and no, right? Like, I disagree that that's the way it has to be, because I think both are helpful, both looking at the past, but only in relationship or in context to why that would be helpful for you now, in the here and now. And also the forward thinking is not just for coaching, that could also be in psychotherapy. And coaches could also do some looking at the back and in your past to have some insight But I think the most powerful place is the here and now, is really what you're doing here and now. And the little changes and the little things that you're doing to improve your overall health. And if your intention is optimal health, optimal mental health, optimal physical health, that kind of vibrant energy and vitality, if that's the intention, getting really clear about that and what that looks like for you, and then holding yourself accountable for the small little changes to make to get there. That in the moment, right? So, in this very moment. And some of the things that might be helpful for you in terms of quantum health strategies, I have started asking myself things like, could I be doing this outside? Could I be earthing while I was doing this? Even if I have to biohack that, even if I have to use my earthing mat or some way to do that. Do I need to block the light? Can I let some light in? Could I open a window, or is it too hot and, we're running the air conditioning or whatever it is, or too cold or whatever the situation is. But could I crack a window while I'm driving? Could I crack a window while I'm working? Could I let light in, or can I get out in the light? And catching myself if I'm really in a negative spiral, to just catch that and notice where in my body is that? Where do I feel that in my body? What's going on? And then what can I say differently to myself? And this is not about going from saying, I suck, and your self-talk is so important. I hope that you're realizing that self-talk is crucial to the whole picture. But it's also the feelings. Those are really the powerful piece. But everything is frequency, right? Thoughts are frequency. So instead of going like from I suck to I am amazing and fabulous, which is often feels very weird to people to say, it's something in between. Like I I am learning. I am on my way to my healing. I am on my way to figuring things out. Things used to be pretty difficult for me, but I'm getting better and better every day. Like something, or I love this one. I stole this from Emma Dunwoody. I'm either winning or I'm learning. I love that. That's true. You are either winning or you're learning. So rather than saying I suck or I'm a failure or all that, just to catch yourself and go, whoa, okay, what else could I say to myself here? And then just noticing how that feels, actually physically feels in your body. It sounds kind of like a chore, but it's actually, it gets easier and it becomes more like a game. And the idea is that I do think holding yourself accountable for it is important, but in a kind, compassionate way of like, okay, well, I'm either winning or I'm learning, and I'm learning a lot right now. That kind of self-talk is important. So whatever it is that you're trying to shift in your life, the awareness, getting clear about it, looking for opportunities to practice little changes, and then holding yourself accountable. That's the process. And to circle back to circadian rhythms, which is where we kind of started with this, supporting your circadian rhythms is really important for every function in the body. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode with Dr. Martin Moore-Eid, that's helpful. And I also have a course that is coming up all about resetting your circadian rhythms. So I have a drop-in class that's only an hour long. So it's not a huge time commitment. It's $27. And so it's virtual. So you can join from anywhere. And that's live. So you can ask questions and like, what is all this stuff about circadian rhythms and how do I make this work in my life? Very practical. And then I have a quantum stress management 21-day circadian rhythms reset course that was coming out. So if you want to get in on that, if you're like, oh, yeah, that's going to be good because I'm going to have a lot of support for that too. It'll be on demand, so you can do it on your own. It's a course that you can just take anytime. But then I will also give a lot of support as a part of being a part of that course. So if you are interested in that, you can head over to my website to learn more and get on the waiting list for as soon as that drops. We will be doing a discount pricing for a bit when it's first coming out. So if you want to get in on that, you can sign up so that you get notified. You're not signing up, you're not paying anything. You're just getting signed up to get information about that because it'll be a really packed course. I think it will be really helpful for people. And I'm very, I'm all about being really practical about the whole thing. So I hope to see some of you in the next class. And then, of course, I'd love to see some of you in the Q and A's or be a part of that whole community that we're building. And I gratefully appreciate all of our listeners. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope that your healing journey is going well and smoothly for you and that these episodes are helpful.